Let's see if we can approximate the area under f of x is equal to 3x minus 1 on the interval from 1 to 4 with 6 rectangles. I think it should be fairly easy to see that f of x is definitely a non-negative function on that interval. At 1 it has a value of 2, and at 4 it has a value of 11, and it's increasing over that interval. So we should be able to do this. So based on the previous video, we know that we need to consider delta x. Alright, that's going to give us the width of each one of our subintervals. That's going to be equal to the entire interval, which is 4 minus 1, divided by the number of rectangles, which is 6. So that gives us 3 over 6, or 1/2. Once we know the width of each subinterval, then we need to figure out how to locate each right endpoint. And we said that the x sub i's were going to be equal to the a value, which is 1 in this case, plus delta x, which is 1/2, times I. That is, since we're dealing with right endpoints, the first one's going to be at 1.5, then 2, then 2.5, then 3, 3.5, and finally 4. Those are our 6 right endpoints for the 6 subintervals we have. The height at each right endpoint is going to be f of x sub I, which is going to be 3 times 1 plus 1/2 I minus 1. In other words, we're going to take our x sub I formula, which is 1 plus 1/2 I, and put it in place of x in our function. We can clean that up a little bit if we want. We can think of that as 3 plus 3/2 I minus 1, or 2 plus 3/2 I. Now the area of a rectangle is going to be f of x sub I times delta x, and we want to add up the 6 rectangles. So we're going to take the summation from I equals 1 to 6 of 2 plus 3/2 I times 1/2. So the 2 plus 3/2 I is the height of each rectangle at the right endpoint. The 1/2 is the width of each rectangle. We multiply to get an area, and then we add up those areas for all 6 of our rectangles. To make that a little bit easier to put in the calculator, we might think of it as the summation I equals 1 to 6 of 1 plus 3/4 I. Let's go over to the calculator and see if we can figure out what that is. I have my calculator set up to work in classic mode, so it's going to look most like the calculators of those of you that have the older calculators. Those of you who have the newer calculators, you're going to type in the same information, but your screens are going to look a little bit different. They look a little bit nicer and a little bit easier to get the information into. So we're going to start with the older calculators, going into the list menu, second in the stat button, going to math, choosing option 5 for sum, then going back into the list menu, second stat, going to ops, choosing option 5 for sequence. Now let me remind myself here what our expression was. 1 plus 3/4 I is what I'm seeing here, so that's what I need to type into the calculator. So I have 1 plus, I'm going to put it as 0.75x, just to make things a little bit easier, comma x, comma, we're going to start at 1, and we're going to count up to 6, and we're going to increase by 1 at a time. And if we do that, we get 21.75. So that is our area, or the approximation, I should say, of an area using the right endpoints. We get 21.75. In a later video, we'll take this work and we'll see what happens and how we can adjust it to also get an approximation using left endpoints.